Hey everyone, welcome back. Today, we're going on a deep dive into this white paper all about innovation,
Okay.
specifically how organizations are using something called idea management platforms to tap into the collective genius of their people.
Sounds interesting.
We got some really amazing case studies here.
Oh, yeah.
Think TSA using crowdsourced ideas to stay ahead of security threats,
Hmm.
or the FDA empowering its employees to make drug evaluations even better.
Wow. That's really fascinating how crucial this is becoming.
Right.
In our rapidly changing world, organizations need to be agile and constantly innovating to stay ahead.
Yeah.
And this paper really argues that the key is unlocking the potential that already exists within an organization's workforce.
Yeah, let's unpack this idea of innovation culture that the paper keeps highlighting.
Okay.
They contrast it with those old school hierarchical structures where good ideas often get lost in the bureaucracy.
Right, and that's where the psychological safety comes into play. It's about creating an environment where people feel comfortable sharing their ideas without fear of being judged or ridiculed.
Makes sense.
And when that happens, you get more diverse and creative solutions because everyone feels empowered to contribute.
So the paper is packed with real-world examples of how this is actually playing out.
Cool.
Ready to jump into some case studies.
Absolutely. Let's see how this looks in action.
All right, so first up, we've got a few examples from government agencies.
Okay.
The TSA, for instance, has something called the innovation pipeline,
I hope
which
so.
helps them stay ahead of security threats in a constantly evolving landscape.
Interesting.
The key takeaway here is that even security-focused organizations can benefit from a culture of open innovation.
And what's remarkable is the tangible impact.
Right.
It's not just about, warm, fuzzy feelings. We're
Yeah,
talking about
totally.
real world results like increased efficiency and improved public services.
Next up, we have NASA using a platform called NASA at Work
Hmm.
to crowdsource solutions during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Mm.
They used IdeaScale to generate over 1,500 proposals on how to apply NASA's expertise to problems like vaccine research.
Wow.
This shows how even in a crisis, these platforms can help organizations adapt quickly and find innovative solutions.
It's a great example of how a diverse range of perspectives can lead to truly groundbreaking ideas.
Right.
We often think of innovation as coming from the top down,
Yeah.
but these cases show the power of tapping into the collective wisdom of the entire workforce.
And it's not just federal agencies. The
Oh,
U.S. Department of Labor partnered with Concept Communications to use IdeaScale to get input on policy development,
interesting.
particularly from individuals with disabilities.
Makes sense.
It's incredible how these platforms can help ensure that everyone has a voice, even those who might not traditionally be included in these conversations.
Exactly. It's about democratizing innovation.
Yes.
And speaking of making a difference, the U.S. Coast Guard used IdeaScale during the 2017 hurricane season to share life-saving ideas,
Wow.
like using social media to track distress signals.
That's incredible.
This highlights the real-time problem-solving potential these platforms offer, especially in critical situations.
So we've seen how IdeaScale can be used by government agencies to address a variety of challenges.
Uh-huh.
But what about the private sector?
Well, Citrix, the software company,
Yeah.
used IdeaScale to gather product improvement suggestions from their employees
Okay.
and received over 1,800 ideas in just 2 years.
Wow.
What's interesting about this is that they weren't just looking for small improvements, they were seeking disruptive, game-changing ideas, and they actually found them.
That's amazing. So it's not just about incremental progress. It's about potentially revolutionizing entire markets.
Exactly. And this goes to show that the potential for innovation exists everywhere,
Right.
not just in specific industries or sectors.
And finally, we have the FDA's Center for Drug Evaluation and Research,
Okay.
or CDER, which launched their CDER crowdsourcing program using IdeaScale.
Uh-huh.
They ended up implementing over 400 employee-generated ideas.
What's remarkable about the CDER case is that they saw improvements in both efficiency and employee morale.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about streamlining processes, but also about creating a more positive work environment where people felt valued and included in the decision-making process.
So we've seen a range of organizations finding success with IdeaScale.
Yeah.
But what exactly makes it more than just a suggestion box?
All right.
What sets it apart?
IdeaScale goes beyond simply collecting ideas.
Okay.
It facilitates true collaboration
Yeah.
and empowers individuals to be active participants in problem solving.
I see.
Features like upvoting allow the community to surface the best ideas, while the commenting system promotes constructive feedback and refinement.
Okay.
This leads to more robust solutions than you'd get with a traditional suggestion box.
It sounds like it really taps into the power of collective intelligence, allowing organizations to harness the combined knowledge and creativity of their entire workforce.
Absolutely.
Okay, we've seen some pretty compelling examples of IdeaScale in action. But let's shift gears for a moment and talk about the concept of innovation culture itself.
Okay.
The white paper really emphasizes this as the key ingredient for success.
Yeah.
But what does that actually look like in practice?
Well, one crucial aspect is leadership buy-in.
Okay.
It's not enough to just implement a platform like IdeaScale.
Right.
The leadership needs to actively champion a culture of innovation.
So they need to make it clear that they value new ideas.
Exactly.
They're open to experimentation,
Uh-huh.
and they're willing to support their employees in taking risks.
That makes sense. If the people at the top are on board, it's going to be an uphill battle to create a truly innovative environment.
Absolutely. And it's not just about talk.
Right.
It's about action.
Yeah.
Leaders need to walk the walk
Okay.
by being open to feedback,
Yeah.
by being willing to try new things,
Yeah.
and by celebrating both successes and failures. That last point is so important, isn't it? Embracing failure as a learning opportunity.
Absolutely. In a true innovation culture, failure isn't seen as a negative. Right.
But is a necessary part of the process.
Okay.
It's about learning from mistakes, iterating, and constantly striving to improve.
So it's about creating a safe space where people feel comfortable taking risks and trying new things without the fear of being punished for making mistakes.
Exactly. It's about fostering a growth mindset
Okay.
where everyone is encouraged to learn, to experiment, and to push the boundaries of what's possible.
Okay, so leadership buy-in is key, but what are some other practical steps that organizations can take to build this innovation culture?
Well, clear communication is essential.
Okay.
People need to know that their ideas are being heard,
Yeah.
that they're being taken seriously,
Uh-huh.
and that there's a process for evaluating and implementing them.
Transparency is key. It builds trust and encourages people to participate.
Right. And it's important to celebrate successes.
Makes sense.
When people see that their ideas are making a difference, it motivates them to keep contributing.
So it's like a positive feedback loop. The more you celebrate innovation, the more innovation you get. Exactly. And it's not just about big groundbreaking innovations.
Right.
It's also about celebrating small wins, incremental improvements,
Uh-huh.
and even just the act of trying something new.
It's about creating a culture where everyone feels like they can contribute,
Absolutely.
regardless of their role or their level of experience.
And when you have that kind of culture, the possibilities are truly endless.
Okay, we've talked about the importance of leadership buy-in and clear communication,
Yeah.
but what about the actual process of managing all these ideas? We've seen how IdeaScale can help,
Right.
but what are some other tools and techniques that organizations can use to make sure that good ideas don't just get lost in the shuffle?
Well, one important step is to establish clear criteria for evaluating ideas.
Okay.
What are the organization's goals?
Right.
What are the key challenges that they're trying to address? What are the metrics for success?
So it's about having a clear framework for deciding which ideas are worth pursuing.
Exactly. And it's important to involve a diverse range of people in the evaluation process.
Makes sense.
You don't want to just have a small group of executives making all the decisions.
Yeah.
You want to get input from people at all levels of the organization,
Okay.
as well as from customers, partners, and other stakeholders.
That makes sense. The more perspectives you have, the better the decision-making will be.
Right. And it's important to have a system for tracking the progress of ideas.
Okay.
Which ideas are being implemented?
Right.
What are the results?
Uh-huh.
What lessons can be learned?
So it's about creating a feedback loop so that the organization can learn and adapt over time.
Exactly. The goal is to create a continuous cycle of innovation
I see.
where new ideas are constantly being generated, evaluated, implemented, and refined.
This all sounds great in theory, but I'm sure our listener is wondering, how does this actually work in the real world?
Yeah.
Luckily, we have a whole bunch of case studies to dive into that show exactly how organizations are using these principles to achieve incredible results. Ready to hear about how the Federal Transit Administration is using IdeaScale to make public transportation better?
Definitely. Let's explore how they're engaging the community and tapping into the collective wisdom of the people who use public transportation every day.
Great. Let's jump right in after
Okay.
a quick break. All right, so the Federal Transit Administration, or FTA, they used IdeaScale to engage the public in a really innovative way.
Oh, yeah.
They asked for ideas on making public transportation safer, cleaner,
Uh-huh.
greener, more resilient, and more equitable.
It's a fantastic example of looking beyond those traditional sources of expertise.
Right.
The FTA recognized that the people who use public transportation every day,
Yeah.
they have invaluable insights into its challenges and opportunities.
And they got some amazing ideas.
Mm.
It really highlights the power of tapping into the collective wisdom of the community.
Absolutely. It's a great example of how these platforms can be used to democratize innovation
Yeah.
and empower citizens to have a direct impact on the services they rely on.
Now let's revisit that FDA case study for a moment.
Okay.
The one about the Center for Drug Evaluation and Research,
Oh, yeah.
CDR.
The one really stood out. Remember, they implemented over 400 employee-generated ideas
Yeah.
through their CDER crowdsourcing program.
What's impressive is that it wasn't just about generating ideas.
Right.
The program helped foster a sense of ownership
Uh-huh.
and engagement among employees,
Yeah.
leading to a more positive work environment.
It shows that when people feel like they're part of the solution, they're more invested in its success.
It's a win-win for everyone.
Yeah.
The organization gets better ideas,
Uh-huh.
and employees feel more valued.
Exactly. And that kind of positive energy can have a ripple effect,
Right.
leading to better outcomes for everyone involved.
So we've seen how IdeaScale can help organizations tap into the collective genius of their people.
Yeah.
But, the white paper also goes deeper,
Okay.
exploring the concept of innovation culture itself.
Right. It emphasizes that a culture of innovation is essential for organizations to truly thrive in today's rapidly changing world.
They actually use the phrase psychological safety. What does that mean in the context of innovation?
It means creating an environment where people feel comfortable sharing ideas without fear of judgment or ridicule.
Okay.
It's about fostering a sense of trust and openness,
Yeah.
where people feel empowered to take risks and think outside the box.
Because, let's face it, not everyone's comfortable speaking up in a traditional brainstorming session.
Right.
Some people might be afraid of being judged or ridiculed, which can stifle creativity.
Exactly. That's why creating a culture of psychological safety is crucial.
Okay.
It's about shifting the mindset from seeing mistakes as failures to seeing them as valuable learning opportunities.
So how can organizations actually build this kind of culture? It sounds great in theory, but where do you even start?
Well, the white paper highlights a few key ingredients.
Wow.
First and foremost, leadership buy-in is absolutely essential. It has to come from the top.
Right.
Leaders need to make it clear that they value innovation.
Uh-huh.
They're open to new ideas, and they're willing to support experimentation.
That makes sense. If the leaders aren't on board, it's going to be an uphill battle.
Absolutely. Another important ingredient is clear communication. People
Okay.
need to know that their ideas are being heard,
Right.
that they're being taken seriously,
Yeah.
and that there's a clear process for evaluating and implementing them.
Transparency is key.
Yeah.
It builds trust and encourages people to participate.
Right. And finally, it's important to celebrate successes.
Okay.
When people see that their ideas are making a difference,
Yeah.
it motivates them to keep contributing.
So it's like a positive feedback loop. The more you celebrate innovation, the more innovation you get.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that failure is a part of the process.
Uh-huh.
Not every idea is going to be a winner, but that's okay.
Yeah, the white paper really emphasizes embracing failure as a learning opportunity.
Right, because even when an idea doesn't work out, you can still learn something valuable from it.
Okay.
You can figure out what went wrong, adjust your approach, and try again.
So it's about shifting our mindset from seeing failure as a negative to seeing it as a stepping stone to success.
Exactly. And that's a crucial part of fostering a culture of innovation.
Okay, so we've talked about the importance of culture in leadership.
Yeah.
But what about the actual tools and processes? What are some things organizations can do to make it easier for people to share their ideas and collaborate?
Well, that's where platforms like IdeaScale come in.
Okay.
They provide a centralized hub where people can submit ideas, comment on them, vote on them, and track their progress.
So it's like a social network for ideas.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that makes these platforms so powerful.
Yeah.
They tap into our natural desire to connect with others,
Right.
share our thoughts, and be part of something bigger than ourselves.
I imagine these platforms also make it easier for organizations to manage the whole innovation process.
Absolutely. They can help streamline the evaluation process,
Okay.
identify the most promising ideas, and track the impact of implemented solutions.
So they're not just about generating ideas, they're about turning those ideas into action.
Exactly. And that's the ultimate goal, right?
Yeah.
To create a system where good ideas can flourish and make a real difference.
Speaking of good ideas, Let's go back to those case studies for a moment.
Okay.
We've already talked about the TSA, NASA,
Mm-hmm.
the USDL, the USCG,
Yeah.
and the FPA. But there was one more that I found particularly fascinating.
Oh, yeah. I'm all ears.
The last case study that really stood out to me was the one about CDR,
Okay.
the FDA's Center for Drug Evaluation and Research.
Oh, yeah. That one was really impressive. I was blown away with the number of ideas they implemented.
Over 400. And it wasn't just about coming up with new ideas.
Right.
It was about creating a more positive work environment.
Right. The white paper mentions that their CDR crowdsourcing program helped to foster a sense of ownership and engagement among employees.
And that's so important. When people feel like they're part of the solution, they're more likely to be invested in its success.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it creates a more positive and productive work environment overall.
So it's a win-win for everyone. The organization gets better ideas, and the employees feel more valued and engaged.
And I bet that translates into better outcomes for the public as well.
You know, one thing that really struck me about all of these case studies is that they weren't just about coming up with cool ideas. They were about solving real problems and making a tangible difference in the world.
That's a crucial point. Innovation isn't just about being creative.
Right.
It's about being impactful. It's about using our creativity to make the world a better place.
And that's what makes it so inspiring. It's not just about making money or getting ahead.
Yeah,
It's about making a positive contribution to society.
exactly. And that's something that we can all aspire to, no matter what our role or our field of expertise.
You know, it's interesting. We started this deep dive by talking about how organizations are tapping into the collective genius of their people.
And now we're realizing that it's not just about organizations, it's about all of us.
We all have the potential to be innovators,
Uh-huh.
to be change makers,
Right.
to make a difference in the world.
And the more we embrace collaboration, the more we empower each other,
Right.
the more amazing things we'll be able to accomplish together.
That's a powerful message to leave our listeners with.
Absolutely. So go out there, embrace your inner innovator, and let's make the world a better place, one idea at a time.
That sounds like a great plan. But before we get too carried away,
Okay.
let's take a step back and consider some of the potential downsides of this approach. After all, no system is perfect, right?
That's a fair point. It's important to acknowledge that there can be challenges associated with crowdsourcing ideas and managing innovation.
Like what? What are some things that people should be aware of?
Well, one potential challenge is that it can be difficult to manage the volume of ideas that come in.
Okay.
If you're not careful, you can end up with a huge backlog of suggestions that never get addressed.
That's a good point. It's like having a fire hose of ideas pointed at you.
Yeah.
You need a way to filter them and prioritize the most promising ones.
Exactly. And that requires a well-defined process, clear criteria for evaluation,
Right.
and dedicated resources to manage the flow of information.
So it's not something that you can just set and forget. It requires ongoing attention and management.
Absolutely. Another potential challenge is that it can be difficult to ensure that all voices are heard.
Okay.
If you're not careful, you can end up with a situation where the same people are always contributing ideas
Now,
while others are left out.
that's a really important point.
Yeah.
It's essential to create an environment where everyone feels comfortable participating,
Right.
regardless of their background, their role, or their level of experience.
And that means being proactive about reaching out to underrepresented groups, providing support and encouragement, and making sure that the platform is accessible to everyone.
So it's not just about building the platform. It's about actively cultivating a culture of inclusivity.
Exactly. And that takes effort, but it's well worth it.
Okay, so we've talked about the potential downsides of crowdsourcing ideas.
Yeah.
But what about the broader implications of this whole innovation thing? What are some of the bigger picture questions that we should be thinking about?
Well, one question that comes to mind is the role of technology in all of this.
Okay.
It's clear that platforms like IdeaScale are playing an increasingly important role in facilitating innovation.
But is technology always a good thing? Are there potential downsides to relying so heavily on these platforms?
That's a great question. I think it's important to remember that technology is just a tool.
Yeah.
It can be used for good or bad, depending on the intentions of the people who are using it.
So it's not about the technology itself. It's about how to use it.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to have these conversations, to think critically about the role of technology in our lives, and to make sure that we're using it in a way that benefits humanity as a whole.
Another big picture question that comes to mind is the role of education.
Yeah.
If we want to create a more innovative society,
Hmm.
we need to start by educating our young people to be creative thinkers and problem solvers.
Absolutely. We need to move away from rote memorization and standardized testing
Right,
and
yeah.
focus on developing critical thinking skills,
Okay.
creativity, and collaboration.
So it's not just about teaching kids what to think.
Yeah,
It's about teaching them how to think.
exactly. And that's a much more valuable skill in today's rapidly changing world.
It's amazing to think about how this whole conversation about innovation
Hmm.
connects to so many other important issues.
Right. It's about technology. It's about education.
Yeah.
It's about culture. It's about leadership.
Uh,
It's about the future of work. It's about the future of humanity.
it's about everything.
And that's what makes it so fascinating and so important.
Well, I don't know about you, but my brain is officially full.
Hmm.
We've covered so much ground today.
I know, right? It's been a whirlwind of insights and inspiration.
But I think we've done a pretty good job of unpacking this whole innovation thing.
I agree. We've explored the theory. We've looked at real-world examples.
Yeah.
We've considered the potential downsides. And we've even pondered some of the bigger picture implications.
And through it all, I think we've come to a pretty clear conclusion
Which is?
that innovation is not just something that happens in Silicon Valley or in research labs.
It's something that can happen anywhere, by anyone, at any time.
And that's a pretty empowering thought, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It means that we all have the potential to make a difference in the world,
Yeah.
to contribute to something bigger than ourselves.
And that's a pretty good message to leave our listeners with, don't you think?
I couldn't agree more.
Well, on that note, I think it's time to move on to our final thoughts on this deep dive. So we've seen how powerful tapping into that collective genius can be, from, improving security at airports to finding solutions during a global pandemic.
Right.
But it makes you wonder, why isn't every organization doing this?
Right. Yeah. That's the million-dollar question.
Right.
We've talked about, some challenges,
Yeah.
like managing a ton of ideas and ensuring everyone feels included.
Right.
But those can be solved with the right tools and a bit of effort.
So what's the real roadblock then?
Hmm.
Is it just like resistance to change?
I think it's a mix of things.
Okay.
Some folks might still cling to that old idea that innovation comes only from the top,
Oh,
from the experts.
like they're stuck in an ivory tower just waiting for inspiration to strike,
Exactly.
rather than realizing the brilliance that surrounds them every day.
They might not grasp how powerful it is to harness, everyone's intelligence.
Yeah, and let's be honest, there can be a fear of letting go of control.
Right.
This approach requires a bit of vulnerability,
Mm-hmm.
trusting that good ideas can come from anywhere.
It's like taking a leap of faith, believing in the collective wisdom of the group.
And that can be scary for some people.
Yeah.
It means stepping outside their comfort zone,
Right.
embracing uncertainty,
Mhm.
and being open to, new ways of doing things.
So maybe it's less about understanding and more about courage. The courage to challenge the status quo,
Yeah.
embrace new ideas,
Right.
and trust in the collective.
It takes courage to truly innovate,
It does.
but as we've seen, the rewards could be incredible.
Absolutely.
When we unleash this collective genius,
Yeah.
we can achieve amazing things.
It's like unlocking a hidden superpower,
Right.
a source of creativity and problem solving that's always been there.
And the best part is, it's a power available to everyone,
Right.
not just, specific industries or organizations.
It's a human superpower, something we all possess.
So how do we spread the word? How do we encourage more people to embrace this approach?
Well, conversations like this are a fantastic start. By sharing these success stories and demystifying the process,
Right.
we can raise awareness and inspire others to take action.
And maybe we can even nudge those hesitant leaders to take that leap of faith, to
Yeah.
embrace the power of their people and unlock that incredible potential within their organization.
Absolutely. Imagine the possibilities if this became the norm, if every organization tapped into this wellspring of collective genius.
As we wrap up, I'm feeling a real sense of hope and excitement.
Me too.
It's inspiring to think about what we can achieve when we tap into that collective genius of humanity.
I agree. It feels like we're on the cusp of a new era of innovation,
Right.
one that's more inclusive, collaborative, and impactful than ever before.
And who knows what incredible breakthroughs await us on the other side.
That's a question we'll have to explore in another deep dive.
Uh-huh.
But for now,
Yeah.
I think we've given our listeners plenty to think about.
Absolutely. We've covered so much ground today,
We have.
from the theory behind innovation culture
Uh,
to real-world examples of how idea management platforms are changing the game.
It's been a fascinating journey. Thanks for diving in with us.
And to our listeners, remember, the power to innovate,
Yeah.
to create, to make a difference. It's within each and every one of you.
So go out there, unleash your collective genius, and let's build a brighter future together.
Until next time, stay curious, stay engaged, and keep those ideas flowing.